It's so funny how every single thing that comes along, everybody tries to make a total body exercise device out of it, whether it's a stability ball or whether it's this TRX thing, which has been around for a little bit now, but it's so funny how its real most awesome objective capabilities are kind of obscured by the fact that people are trying to do goofy things like lunges with their foot on one side of it and that kind of stuff, and just kind of ruining all strength opportunities by making more balancey stuff. But the big thing is we started exploring this suspension training thing back in about, it was about 98, 99. And we were doing it with chains, because chains, of course, then you could do incremental adjustments in length, because we would do pulling exercises with a very different length than we would do pressing exercises, etc. And it's interesting, here's some video, you can kind of take a look at just playing with this stuff. And it's pretty poor quality video, I apologize, but here's a guy just kind of doing a chest press kind of a thing, and you can see him going to the bottom. And it may be difficult for you to see, but there's a chain suspended here and a separate chain suspended over here. And the width above is chosen based on the forces we want to create in the shoulder and elbow. And we can change the angle. Like I think there's a scene here where after a couple reps he comes up and kind of lifts his butt up in the air to an improper version of a push-up. But the point is not, is he doing the right kind of a push-up? The point is, what's the angle of pull of the force that he's creating around the shoulder? And what this is the equivalent of a slight incline press. So when you start looking like this at things like that, you got to look at lines of force relative to the body. You can't look at what you memorize this thing to be. Oh, that's a butt up in the air push-up. No, it's an inclined suspension press, if we were to use the terms associated with normal benches. But I wanted to go in and show you some things. I think the tremendous limitations in this TRX thing center around the idea that they're suspended from single strands of webbing and then break off into individual handles from a V shape that's over the body. And the problems that actually creates, or I should say not so much problems, but the limitations that creates, because you're creating a press in here. This is you, that spider looking thing is you. And here's your head, and here's your blue arms, and here's your blue torso, and you're at the bottom of a press, and this thing is wrapped around you. By diverging from this one point, you're really limited in what you can do with it. And if you understand moment arms, you understand how incredibly limiting this is, especially for varying sizes of people and that kind of stuff. If you were to understand this stuff well enough, you could manipulate things like, for example, you could make the two individual straps or chains that are suspended from this bar, you could make them at roughly shoulder width or something like that, so that at the top, here's the top of your press, they are roughly shoulder width or maybe slightly outside of your shoulder width. And then as you lowered yourself from this width, this is top, bottom. Oops, I was going to use blue for you since you like blue shirts or something, I don't know. We're down here, and now at the bottom of the press, you've created a very different scenario where the force might be angled slightly inside of your elbow. So it's more of a conventional moment arm relationship between, like you might create in a dumbbell press or something like that. But the angle changes, and that's a cool thing to manipulate. Another thing we used to do that's really, really fun is actually take it a bit wider. So that at the top, the force is convergent upon your arm. Got to give you bigger arms here, right? So here you are at the top of the press, and the cable's pulling out a little bit as well as pulling up on you. And so that creates a much more dramatic moment arm of resistance right here at the shoulder, and even one at the elbow that's crossed over the elbow, so it'd be less elbow extensors, and there'd actually be, in the order of doing this press, some eccentric elbow flexors as you were pressing. But if I showed you the bottom position for that, big arms again. Now at the bottom, because of the width, you might actually have it so that at the bottom, they're a little more vertical and parallel with each other. So now it's more balanced through your elbow. These tops and bottoms with the different widths of starting position for the suspension device create totally different exercises with totally different influences. And if someone has shoulder problems, you might use one or the other. Just letting you see that when you're sold this packaged goods up here, you're not getting the full biomechanical picture. I'm not sure they've explored it. Maybe they have, and this was just the most price-wise the thing they decided to give you. But honest to goodness, you could go to Home Depot and create something like this for about $15, $16 and manipulate it across the top of a cable crossover bar or something like that, any way you wanted for a given individual.